Millionaires and billionaires are constantly moving out of New York and California. They're moving to states like Nevada, Florida, and Texas. Why? Let's get into it. I'm Reggie Good, and I'm a business manager for 7, 8, 9-figure, highly earning and highly publicized individuals. You've seen their movies, you've heard their music, you know their businesses. So I work with clients of all types: content creators, musicians, actors, athletes. And I had this one time where it was a musician who moved here actually just to get his career going. He did very, very well in California. Now he has a family, but he's realizing the cost of living here is just extreme, especially the taxes. He likes the weather, but he doesn't like the tax he's paying for the weather. So we got into a conversation about other states that don't have taxes, state taxes, such as Florida, Nevada, and Texas, and we decided to pick one. He decided to visit the state, he loved the state, and he moved to the state. He chose to do that because in the state of California, for example, we're almost at 14% state taxes when you're a highly earning individual. When just next door, a 45-minute flight to Las Vegas, you're paying no state taxes. So guess what state he chose? The state of Nevada. So let's ballpark. Let's say he had a good year, about $10 million. I said the state of California is 13 to 14% taxes. That means he's paying almost $1.3 or $1.4 million in taxes. If you can keep that in your pocket and you're a 45-minute flight from LA, you can do your work in Nevada, fly in when you need to show up for shoots or do anything else, why wouldn't you do it? Let's say that you spend couple $1,000s on flights just to get back and forth, you're still saving tons and tons of money. So for a lot of people, it makes sense. And so if you're talking a 45-minute flight from Las Vegas to LA, and that costs you a few $1,000s a year, you're still saving over $1 million moving to the state of Nevada. And let me tell you, it's not just Las Vegas, the Strip. There are plenty of nice communities where you can find good homes, good living for less money. Before you get your moving boxes and you start packing those bags, the very first thing we need to do is analyze, is it even really worth it? We have to do a cost-benefit analysis. We sit down and we figure out, what's it costing you to live here? What's it going to cost for you to live in your new state? A lot of times, it might not be worth it, especially when you have to factor in new expenses for living, for education. You might have children. You're going to have to sell your house here. There's a lot of things that you've done when you were in California or whatever your home state is that may be beneficial for you to keep those activities and stay here instead of moving. But let's say that we figure out that it's worth it to move. The next thing we're going to do is create a comprehensive budget to figure out how much it's going to cost to get you from point A, where you are now, to point B. As we know, moving can be an expensive proposition. Some things that you think about, some things that you don't. Obviously, there's the cost of movers. But what are you going to do on the other side? Are you going to get a whole bunch of new furniture? Are you moving to a fully furnished place? Are you going to rent? Are you going to buy? Is it going to cost time to hold your house here? Is it going to take time before you be able to sell it? Now you're paying a mortgage still here before you move. There's lots of things to consider. So we figured out it makes good financial sense to move. Okay, so what are you going to have to do once you get to your new state? You're going to have to establish residence in that state. So what does that mean to establish residency? The very first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need proof that you actually reside in this new state. And that can be in the form of a rental lease agreement or your new mortgage. You're going to need mortgage statements and closing paperwork. Your new state's going to require that. The very next thing you're going to need to prove that you're living there regularly. That means they're going to want to see grocery bills. They're going to want to see utility bills. They're going to want to see all sorts of receipts. And trust me, I've had many instances where people have asked me, hey, can I just have a friend go to the local grocery store and buy a whole bunch of groceries and it looks like I just live there? The answer to that is no. They're going to want to see regular proof of residence, and they will check. And be very, very clear that they will look to make sure that you lived in that new state 6 months in a day. You have to spend more time in the new state than you did the old state, and they are counting those days. There's been cases where the IRS will go as far as trying to see the dates of which you purchased your groceries to make sure that you are in that new state for 6 months and a day. And make sure you keep record of all of that travel, because that's going to be your ace in the hole. They are going to check. IRS and state authorities are going to check your travel logs to see when you're entering and exiting states. And if those dates don't line up, you're in trouble. The last but absolutely not the least thing that you need to do if you're considering moving to another state for tax purposes is you're going to have to close the entity of which you're doing business in this state because you're going to need to open it in another state. This can be very, very complex, so always check with your trusted advisor and your financial professional. But when you're operating and you're doing business in a state, that is going to be the state of which you're going to be taxed. The IRS and state authorities check on this frequently. So let's say, for example, you're an actor and you're doing movies in other states and your other countries, but you're still receiving mail, you're still receiving your dues, your accounting functions, some operations, you're paying employees, your assistants, if they're all being paid out of California. So guess what? California is going to choose you as the person they're getting taxes from. So what you're going to have to do is when you get to your new state, you're going to have to make sure you thoroughly close all activities and business in your previous state, California, and you establish your business in your new state, in this case, Nevada, which means all contractors, all employees, all of your bills, all of the operations have to originate in Nevada, or else your old state's going to come looking for you. And remember, one size doesn't fit all. There are very unique cases, such as content creators, where they may be operating and doing their business all over the world. And because things can get complex, and this is why you need an accounting and a finance professional in your life, you don't absolutely have to close out the entity in one state if you're doing business in multiple states, because your personal income will be taxed in your home state. It gets very murky, but we want to make sure that you identify the need to make sure that you have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed when you're moving from one state to the other. So I've given you a few pointers on the financial considerations of moving to another state. That's one of many factors that you need to consider. The biggest, even beyond the financial consideration, is lifestyle. Look, you are literally going to pick up and move to an entirely different location, which means you're going to have a different lifestyle. Weather changes, community changes, your children. There are many, many things that you need to consider when moving from one state to the other. So make sure you do tons of research. You talk to financial professionals, your business manager, your trusted advisors, and most importantly, talk to your family and your friends, because your move is not only going to impact you, it's going to impact them.